This is a pretty exciting weekend. We are celebrating the reunion of folks who took the first and maybe the only New Jerusalem tour a year and some months ago, last July of 2022. And almost all of them were here last night. There's only been a falling away of two, and there were only two who couldn't make it. So I don't know, would the people who went on the tour please stand up? Yeah. Yes, thank you. These are the few, the brave, the crazy, but they made it, and we had a pretty fabulous time. And this evening is both a memory and a celebration and an invitation to all of you to take your own New Jerusalem tours in whatever way you can. And so, it started as a letter I wrote to Barry Corey at Biola, I don't know, in 2014 or something, suggesting that this was an idea for a trip. And he then thought that his fellow college president friends, of which there was a group that has been meeting for over 10 years, that this would be good for them. And apparently they thought so too, because it all happened a year ago. And that's how it began. And it began also because over the last 30 years, where the letter came from, Howard and I have been traveling and traipsing, and he would say being dragged. I just thought I'd cover that for you, Howard. Across North Africa and the Middle East and Anatolia and Europe, looking to see the footprints that Christians before us left, and to see what difference they made and what lasted. And along with that went a study of the early church fathers through a friend named Thomas C. Oden and Mike Glarup and Chris Hall and Joel Olowski, who's here. I'm looking around to see him. And Chris and Mike went on the trip as resources. Joel, well, he had to stay home in St. Louis. Anyway, so it came along reading the fathers, reading history, and going to the places and traipsing over often the ruins, but not always. And the trip took us to the places that aren't in ruins. And so it was to find the DNA of Christianity, which it turned out in our trip is the empty tomb. I mean, who goes to see an empty tomb? But that's where we began, at the empty tomb. And the DNA piece of that is the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The other two pieces that we encountered were the knowledge of a coming judgment, that our actions matter, that there is both love and justice. God is both loving and just. And finally, the promise of an eternal home in the New Jerusalem that is a model for how we are to live while we're here on earth. That's the DNA that Christians put into their buildings and their writing and their living, which we also saw on the trip. So that's what it was all about. And I guess that's the main thing I need to say. What we're going to see is a film that was done by my good friend Jody Hassett Sanchez, who was a television producer of news, both at CNN and ABC News. She then became transferred into being an independent filmmaker, and she has done several really wonderful films, Sold, More Art Upstairs, and worked on many others. She is the person behind the film you're going to see, which tells you the story of the trip, and you'll hear me talking probably too much, at any rate. But you'll hear a lot of other people talking too, and many of them are here tonight. And then we are going to have a wonderful spoken word concert put together by my friend Mitchell West Street Hymns, who got some of his compatriots from Poets in Autumn and elsewhere, Hannah Watson, and Jasmine Sims and Lo Alaman, who are going to give us a wonderful spoken word concert. And then we go over and see this wonderful art show, which you'll hear more about. But there will be a panel, so you'll get to hear some people talk about the work that they've been doing as well. So with that, I think I've done what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to hand this over to Jody Hassett Sanchez. Yes. Yes. Okay.
I don't need that. I got my own mic. You got your own, I got my own.
Okay.
So when the notion first came up about making a film about this extraordinary, what we call the beginning, the magical mystery tour, I had concerns. It was a film based on someone else's vision, Roberta's and his, that wasn't mine, and I'd never done a film like that. I was also worried about making a film that involved a lot of time and interviews with some dear friend of many decades. I've seen other folks have friendships that have fallen apart as a result of that. And then there was the crazy trip schedule, which was impossible for a film crew to capture everything. I was really worried we weren't going to be able to chronicle accurately the art and the architecture while also this extraordinary pilgrimage that many of you in the room here experienced. And then someone introduced me to this theological term, apophatic. Yeah, see, I know there's people in this room who could define it much better than I, but with even the most rudimentary understanding of the word, it kind of freed me up from this notion that it was all on me to explain everything and show everything and do everything in a film that was under an hour that people would find interesting. Gregory of Nyssa explained apophatic this way, so I'm going to let him do it, not me. The true knowledge and vision of God consists in this, in seeing that he is invisible, because what we seek lies beyond all knowledge. And with that understanding, I was really released. I was released from this notion that it was all on me to show and tell everything. And then I was able to craft a film that offers, I think, traces of the beauty and just a sense ineffable of the pilgrimage. And what I hope is this film will inspire you to pursue a richer understanding of the ideas that you get a sense of here and maybe to plot your own pilgrimage. And I am pleased to report that our friendship survived the many, many hours of interviews/interrogations in buses, boats, blistering hot cafes. Yeah. So that was one of my concerns. And finally, the film is 35 minutes long. And then we'll immediately go to our friends who will do their spoken word poetry. So I'm going to ask you now to turn off your phones, and I'm going to ask you if for any reason you're not completely visually taken in by the film, I'm going to give you something you can note during the film. I want you to keep track of how many pairs of super cool eyeglasses you see during the film. Because there's more than one person in this film who rocks different eyeglasses in every scene. So with that, I'm going to say enjoy, and then afterwards we're going to go immediately to Street and his colleagues. So, and then we'll have a conversation, so I'll look forward to seeing you afterwards.